So when it comes to trust and confidence, for me as the Police and Crime Commissioner, it'd be about working closely with the Chief Constable to understand the reasons why people don't trust and have confidence in the police, and to start from a point of listening with empathy, with real understanding, and to work through those issues and to heal that gap in trust. It's a really, really serious concern. It'll be a really big priority for me. But as I've said, the starting point is to really understand in detail from a point of genuine wanting to understand and from a point of empathy, to understand why people don't have trust and confidence in the police at the moment. Some of it will be about resources, and people sense that the police just don't have the resources at the moment to respond to all the different issues and challenges in our communities. But there's also some really, some bigger issues as well. I'm determined to tackle those issues. I'm not going to shy away from that challenge, and I will be, I'll be really, really sort of clear in my determination to step into that, confront that challenge, and do everything I can to build up those levels of trust and confidence in our police here in Leicestershire and Rutland.
Okay, so £1 million question. Why is it important for people in the borough to cast their vote on Thursday?
It's always important for people to vote. I would always encourage people to have their say at any election, whether that's a Police and Crime Commissioner election, a general election, a council election. Really, really important that people have that active stake in their communities and society by casting their vote. But the Police and Crime Commissioner carries with it a really big set of important responsibilities, setting the strategy and future direction of our police here in Leicestershire and Rutland, setting the police budget and making sure we have a strong and effective voice on the national stage as well to try and tackle that big challenge of underfunding of our police force at the moment. So I'd encourage people to obviously look at the interviews that you're doing, the live streams that you're doing, look at the candidates on social media, look at our manifestos, and make a decision. But please go and vote on Thursday. And indeed, if people have a postal vote, make sure they get that in the post as soon as possible.
Brilliant. So that's our general questions now. So let's start talking a little bit about your manifesto, i.e. the reasons that people should be voting for you on Thursday. So one of the big things that I noticed, big themes when I was going through your manifesto, is the ideas that you feel that the Tories have let us, the public, down over the last 4 or 5 years. So could you go into a bit more detail as to why you feel that the Tories have let us, public, down during this time period?
Sure, and I do believe we've been let down by the Conservatives in recent years. The fundamental facts are that we have fewer police on the streets of Leicestershire and Rutland today than we had in 2009 at the end of the last Labour government. So fewer police at the same time as a period of house building and the population going up and crime becoming more complex means that our police force doesn't have the resources it needs to proactively tackle and prevent crime to the levels that we need it to be doing so. Leicestershire Police is one of the worst funded in the country. 36 of 41 other police forces across the country will get a better funding deal from the government this year. In my view, that's just not good enough. I'm determined to change that. And if I'm elected and if I fail to get police funding changed in Leicestershire's favour after these years of woeful and unacceptable underfunding, I will not re-stand for re-election in 4 years' time. That's a central promise. And just on why we've been let down, just look at our high streets at the moment. Look at the levels of shoplifting, for example. The fact that shoplifting was in effect downgraded by the Conservative government. Look at the fact that so many crimes now go unsolved without anybody being brought to justice. The police are facing huge challenges. But they've also run the wider criminal justice system into the ground as well.
Because that actually leads to a question that Ruth asked, because she put a comment into the post in the original stream before the signal went thing, where she asked, what do you plan to do? Because there are so many instances where crimes have been recorded and nothing's happened. I personally have been involved in one of those such crimes recently, and it did personally affect a lot of my trust in the police force.
Yeah, and I saw the question. It's a really good question. And my vision is that we have really visible, really accessible neighbourhood policing in all our communities, with neighbourhood police teams who get to know local communities, become that familiar that familiar face, understanding local issues, so we can get the intervention and investment into preventing crime in direct response to the very local concerns in our community. I was in Melton just last weekend meeting some residents who were really concerned about antisocial behaviour in the area. So it's about having that visible neighbourhood policing. But of course, central to that is about resources. We need our fair share of resources and funding. And that's why I'm making this such a central part of what I'm saying in this election. I'm not prepared to stand by and accept Leicestershire Police being underfunded when other similar police forces facing the exact same challenges that we're facing with similar populations and similar geographies are getting a better funding deal than Leicestershire. I'm determined to get our voice heard nationally. I'm determined to change that funding in Leicestershire's favour, because until we get our fair share of resources, we will continue to have this situation where people don't feel their neighbourhood police teams have been as effectively resourced as they need to be to tackle those local issues. So, police resources, getting our fair share of funding, getting more investment into frontline neighbourhood policing, they're my priorities, and I believe they're the public's priorities too.
Yes. So in your mind, why do you feel that Leicestershire and Rutland are getting the short end of the stick when it comes to police funding? Because from my point of view, Rupert is a Tory, and the government that we have at the moment is a Tory-led government. So why do you feel? So in my mind, I feel, well, surely like they want to keep members of their own party sweet and in the back pocket sort of thing. But why do you feel that we're getting the short end of the stick?
Well, look, there's a complex funding formula that will sit behind these decisions, and in turn, which influences the exact funding that each police force gets. But it's my view that it's the job of the Police and Crime Commissioner, if that funding formula is not serving our area well, and it isn't, it is part of your job to get that changed and to influence the government, influence members of Parliament, make sure that this is an issue that is, make sure it's widely understood on the national stage that this is profoundly unfair. So it'd be an interesting question to ask the current Police and Crime Commissioner why that funding formula hasn't changed, why we continue to be so woefully underfunded. And look, I'm determined to get it changed. I can talk about my approach. I believe I've got the skills, the experience, the knowledge of how national decision making works, and I will work and I will influence whoever's in government in the coming years if I'm elected to get this change. As I've said, I want people to measure my effectiveness on this. I am really, really serious, and I mean it. Too many politicians make promises that they don't keep. I will keep this promise because everybody will be able to see and hold me to account. If I don't get that funding formula changed in Leicestershire's favour, if I'm elected, I will not seek re-election in 4 years' time. It's a central promise. It's a contract between me and the people of Leicestershire and Rutland.
Okay, and no doubt if we see you in 4 years and we're having this conversation,
absolutely.
Just on the record, guys, Rupert, as have all of the candidates, have been invited for a Q&A. Once that's locked in with Rupert, I will let you guys know. But just to go on the record, all of the candidates have received an invite for a chat just like this one. So let's go now. So obviously you mentioned a little bit about community policing and the shoplifting, and obviously you mentioned how that you'd spoken to residents last week and there were concerns about antisocial behaviour. So in your mind, what does this community policing look like?
It's visible, it's accessible, and it is responding directly to local needs. It needs to be properly resourced. So neighbourhood police teams need to be properly resourced in terms of numbers of police officers and PCSOs, and then therefore it's about making sure they have the time and the space to really get to know communities, to police proactively, to be tackling problems before they become big problems. I was a councillor in Leicester for 10 years at a time when we had more police officers, more PCSOs working in local communities. So I saw this firsthand. I was able to work very closely with a neighbourhood police team, and we were able to see firsthand the effectiveness and the value of having that properly resourced neighbourhood policing, where police officers and PCSOs can really get to know a local community, can get involved in local issues, work really closely with community groups, over their neighbourhood watch groups, residents associations, with local businesses, the voluntary sector, and so on. Really getting to know local issues and responding to them, and making sure there's really strong, unified plans to tackle those issues. And that's how we were talking about trust and confidence a minute ago. I mean, when you have visible neighbourhood policing that's really proactive. And I think that's what police officers themselves want to deliver when I speak to them and listen to what they say. That's what builds confidence and trust as well.
Okay, and that sounds like a really robust plan, very good plan, and it kind of leads nicely into my next question. So I was doing a little bit of Googling before our chat, and I was looking on the Police UK website, and the Police UK website states that Melton, crime in Melton is been higher at the end of 2023 compared to other areas of a similar sizing. Is this something that's a surprise to you? Like, was this information that you'd expect?
Not particularly surprising, no. From the conversations I've had in and around Melton with residents and with businesses, people are really, really concerned. I spent a lot of time speaking to shopkeepers and business owners in the town, for example, who told me they've been really concerned about shoplifting and thefts. That's an issue affecting retail areas right across Leicestershire and Rutland and in all our market towns. One concern I do have, though, as well, which is by definition isn't reflected in those statistics, is that I speak to a lot of people at the moment across the area who tell me, and this is really sad and it's really, really concerning, that they just don't bother reporting crime anymore. There's a certain sense that certain crimes are now seen as low level in inverted commas and therefore won't get a police response to the level that people need. I don't think that's good enough.
No, and I can tell you from my personal experience that there have been instances where my family have been victims of vehicle crime, complete with CCTV, nothing got done. And the instance, and I can tell you, I alluded to it a little bit earlier, but I was in a situation a couple of weeks ago. I was on my way to work. I was in the car with another passenger. He was the driver, and we had right of way on the road. The person didn't pull out. That person was then verbally threatening to both myself and the driver, and we didn't even have as much of our details taken. So I can't speak for everybody, but I can say from my personal experience that we are in that camp now, because when we've gone and reported crimes the right way, we haven't seen the result of that.
And that's really concerning, and it's unacceptable. And I really worry about this. I've had dozens and dozens of conversations with people where they tell me a very similar story. They've been a victim of a crime, perhaps vehicle crime, or they're experiencing or enduring antisocial behaviour in their neighbourhood, and they just don't bother reporting it anymore. And that, of course, that dents trust and confidence in a really, really big way. I just find it unacceptable when there's this perception that certain crimes are seen as low level. Antisocial behaviour has a devastating impact on people's quality of life, their health, their well-being, on
as someone
communities.
who's out on teen antisocial behaviour groups as it stands, I completely agree with you 1,000%.
So on this issue of people not reporting crime, I want people to report everything, and I want the police to have the resources to respond. I do not blame, and I want to be really clear about this, I do not blame our police officers and PCSOs and police staff. They work really hard. They work tirelessly and bravely across our communities to keep us safe. The fundamental reality is there's not enough of them, given levels of demand at the moment. And I want to make sure we get our fair share of resources so there can be an effective police response when people report crime. As I said, that's just not been picked up in the statistics at the minute by definition.
No. So what factors do you feel have led into this particular issue where Melton's crime is higher than others of a similar size? Do you think there's just the one factor? Do you think there's multiple at play here?
I think it's probably just similar to most other areas, to be honest. We went through a period of years with, really, really big cuts to the number of police officers across Leicestershire and Rutland. Of course, the Conservatives will now boast about the fact they've recruited more police, which they have in recent years, but we're not back to the levels of the police officers here in Leicestershire that we had in 2009. So our communities have had fewer police officers for a number of years. Unsurprisingly, that's probably going to lead to a spike in certain crimes and levels of antisocial behaviour. it also shouldn't be forgotten that we've seen massive cuts to other services as well, local government services, youth services, to school budgets, and all of that has an impact on local communities as well. And when I listen to residents in Melton and other areas, I just get this sense too much that people don't feel as safe as they want to. And I just believe everyone has a right to feel safe in their own home, in their local community, when they're at work, in their local town centre. And we've just got to get back, I think, to making decisions, getting our share of resources, so that right can be a lived reality for everybody again. It doesn't feel like it is at the moment. It certainly wasn't for the residents I met in Melton last Saturday, who were deeply worried and upset about antisocial behaviour in their part of the town.
Yeah, and the issue there is that there's such a knock on as well, and with everybody involved. So let's now kind of get to know Rory the person a little bit. So I've got some questions just so people can get to know you as a,
Yeah.
living human being. So what do you love the most about Melton Mowbray?
What do I love most about the Melton Mowbray? I know it's a very predictable answer, but it's really, really true. And it's just the whole sort of food and drink scene, and that, the food culture, the artisan cheese fair, the pie awards, the food festivals. I love coming along to those. I had the great honour, and it was a fantastic day a few years ago, been a judge for the British Pie Awards at Melton. That was a great day.
Same.
So yeah, I just look. I mean, I really like the town. It's a really, really friendly place. It's a great place to be. But if I've got to pick one thing, it's obviously going to be Melton as our very proud capital of food here in Leicestershire.
Yeah. So what are your top three favourite songs?
My favourite, sorry,
Songs.
songs. Oh wow! So I'm not a huge music person, so that's a really tricky question. What am I listening to at the moment? To be honest, I'm listening to, my daughters tend to play music at the moment, so it's anything from Taylor Swift to Kylie Minogue and everything in between. Not
Ah,
necessarily
okay.
not necessarily my favourites, but I don't have a huge amount of choice in listening to those at the moment.
Yeah, and with Taylor Swift releasing her new album, that's going to be on play a lot, I think, the
Yeah,
way
but if
things
you
are
if you
going.
if you push me for favourites, I'm going to be very traditional. I'm going to say all the Christmas songs and Christmas music. I love festive music. I love a bit of carol singing. So if you've got to press me for a favourite, I'm going to say very very traditional festive Christmas carols.
Do you partake in Whamageddon though? That is the question.
Sorry.
Are you a Whamageddon person? Do you take part in Whamageddon every year?
No, probably not. No, that's not really me, to be honest.
Nah. Try it in December. It'll widen out your Christmas
Okay.
room. Um. So, what would your final meal be? Like, if you're gonna go off to the afterlife tomorrow, like, and you got to pick your final meal, what would it be?
Steak and chips,
How do you like your steak?
medium.
Nice, same, medium going on here. Do you have any pets?
No, I don't.
No, no pets.
Not at the moment. One of my daughters is lobbying hard for a pet, so maybe that might change in the near future. She's running a very very big persuasive campaign, so let's see,
Like father, like daughter.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay, last question then before I check the comments if anybody else has put something through, which doesn't look like they have thus far. What makes you qualified for this role?
Skills and relevant experience. I've been a councillor for 10 years. I was deputy mayor of Leicester for 6 years. As a member of the European Parliament. So real knowledge, real skills, experience in representing and speaking up for communities on the national stage. I think my values qualify me for this role as well. I'm naturally compassionate. I want to work in partnership with local communities. I want to listen to what communities are saying and make sure we have a police strategy and a vision and a direction here which responds directly to those everyday concerns right across our communities here in Leicestershire and Rutland.
Brilliant, and that sounds like a really strong answer from where I'm sat. So, if you guys like the sound of what Rory has to say, then you can go to your polling station on Thursday, the 2nd of May. You'll, all you'll need to do is bring yourself, and a form of photo ID. So that's things like your driver's license, passport, etc. Between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. to cast your vote. So next live for me will be with Ian Sharp, who is your Lib Dem candidate. That is going to be just under an hour at 1:30. But otherwise, it is goodbye from myself and Rory. Rory, thank you so much for taking the time to come and speak to me today. I
Thank
think
you.
it's been an
Thank you for
absolutely riveting conversation, and apologise for all the technical issues that were happening. We seem to have fixed them now. Thank you, Squire, for your brilliant Wi-Fi. That means that we've not been lagging. I think that's going to be the place I do Q&As in town going forward. But otherwise, it's goodbye from me, goodbye from Rory, and good luck with
thank you.
everything.
Thanks very much.